For my mum, it was you're either just a little bit stressed, just a little bit anxious, or you're full crazy. There's no grey area. I don't need to be hospitalised, but I'm also not just a little bit stressed. I think there was genuine confusion with that. I remember telling her about me going to see a psychologist and trying to explain what therapy was, and she kind of just looked at me and was like, just come talk to me for free.
I love that.
Yeah. It's like, firstly, we don't talk about feelings.
Hi there, it's Asami with you here. What do you do if you don't know how to talk about your mental health in your parents' language? How can you help them to understand what you're going through, or even to ask for what you need? Many of us aren't as fluent in our ancestral languages as we would like to be, me included. But when we go through challenges in life, that can make it really difficult to maintain strong relationships with our families. This is the story that Helen Tang, a Vietnamese Australian psychologist and founder of True You Psychology, is here to talk about today. She shares her experience of generalised anxiety disorder, taking medication for her anxiety, and how working with a Vietnamese psychologist really helped her mental health in profound ways. If you've ever struggled to find the right words to talk about your mental health with your parents, or if you've ever questioned whether you're being a good enough child to your parents, this episode's for you. Welcome to the Asian Mental Health Podcast, brought to you by Shapes and Sounds. Well, Helen, hello. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I have a really random question to start with because I know that you practice EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yes.
Therapy.
It's a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah.
It's such a mouthful, but we got there. I've heard, so I do a lot of running, but I've heard that running mimics EMDR because of that bilateral stimulation, because you're taking like one step, right foot, right, left. Is this true?
I feel like you could technically say running is a type of bilateral stimulation, which is a core element of EMDR therapy, but it's definitely not the same. So EMDR therapy is an 8-phase protocol that needs to be guided by a therapist in a very particular way. So the type of bilateral stimulation we would usually do in a session would be guiding the client's eye movements with our hand, or it would be tapping.
Okay.
Although I've known of other therapists recommending running as kind of like a self-care for after a session to continue the processing. But
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But definitely not within the session.
And it's not
it's
therapy.
not the same, no.
Like me just going for a run and being like, yep, my trauma is done.
Well, I wish. It'd be great, wasn't it? Yeah, I feel like you could get like a calming effect from it, but it's definitely not the same as EMDR therapy.
Interesting. And why would it help like after? Like if a therapist is like, oh, go and do some running after EMDR, how would that work?
That's a really good question. So bilateral stimulation essentially means you're activating left and right brain hemispheres. So when you're running and that's happening, there is a calming effect and it kind of desensitizes you to the state that you're in.
So it's like calming to do right, left, right, left, right, left.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to think of that on my long run tomorrow, so thank you. I'll be like, I'm doing myself good here. Anyway, back to the serious questions, right? So Helen, I want you to take us back to when you were 20 years old, and I believe at that time you were working in retail. Retail is never easy, but can you paint that picture for me and tell me what was going on for you then?
So I worked in retail for probably over 10 years, as you do when you're a psychology student, because it takes forever to, finish your studies and get registered. I was selling handbags for about a year or so. Then I actually quit this job to go and work for a bookshop. I mean, who doesn't want to work in a bookshop? It's like the best job for an introvert. Um, however, said bookshop did close down on me. So I found myself stranded as this broke student. So I basically reapplied for the initial job that I had quit. So the reason initially I had quit this job actually was because of the manager in this store. She was an older lady that I just found quite intimidating to be around. She was still there waiting for me when I got back the second time.
She like, look who came crawling
Exactly.
back.
That's what it felt like. But, I was desperate. I was like, I'm so close to finishing my studies. Like, this is not a forever job. She was someone who, I don't know if she realized it or not, but took advantage of junior staff and, it was just not a nice environment. I didn't feel like it was ever really safe to ask questions and make mistakes around her. So, I think the lead up to one of these shifts in this store, I would just be so worried about how I was going to cope being around her for 6 hours. And I'd be stressed throughout the whole shift. And then by the end of the shift, I'd be completely exhausted. And this cycle just kept repeating. It was not a fun time.
And tell me, like, how did it affect you? I know the dread cycle, but what kind of things were happening to you?
I just felt on edge the whole time. It was just, I felt like I was having to try and predict and rehash things. And I think my tolerance for uncertainty was pretty much like non-existent. I felt like I needed a game plan for everything, and I had to kind of come up with plans for every possible scenario to feel prepared.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't sleeping. The worst part really was the panic attacks that I had never really felt before.
Yeah. What does a panic attack feel like?
It's awful. It really is. It's like this sense of doom, just dread and doom. And despite you logically knowing that you're perfectly fine in the space that you are, like I could be in my bedroom, I could be in a handbag store where there are really no dangers, do you know what I mean? But it's this sense of you're on edge, you're hypervigilant, you're kind of preparing for something to jump out at you and you just have no control over it.
Someone has once described it as like that feeling of when you get a phone call from someone and they're telling you like someone's been in an accident or someone's died, or it's like that kind of thing, but all the time.
Yeah, that sense of dread, like your stomach dropping, like you're like, oh God, what am I about to hear? How do I gear myself up for what I'm about to hear?
Yeah. And does that come in waves? Or
yes.
Is it like moments, like bam, and then?
I think both, really. It would come in waves, but it would also be linked with specific triggers. I was diagnosed with generalised anxiety disorder following, working in this space. And, for me, it did sort of start in the workplace, but then I found myself worrying about all the little things that sound so silly, even just to name. Like I felt like if I was going to go see my friend for lunch, I would need to kind of like Google Maps how long it would take to get there, and then like figure out days in advance where I would park my car. Like, that tolerance for uncertainty was just non-existent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because of that shop, essentially it like kind of disappeared, like that window of tolerance essentially.
Yeah.
It's just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
And I know you said you received that diagnosis, but tell me about your experience of kind of getting to therapy. You're like, okay, this doesn't feel right. I need to go to therapy. Like what were those steps there?
I think I've always really been an anxious person, but this was different. This was something I felt like, your basic self-care, the strategies I would usually use to get through a stressful moment were just not working. Like, the reassuring myself, the staying active, the seeing friends, and, the journaling. I feel like, as valuable as that was, it just wasn't enough to get myself back to a place where I could function. Like I could go to work, I could show up to a lecture at the time, or, go to a class. So I felt like this was beyond my capacity to cope, and that the responses that my nervous system was having was clearly disproportionate to what was happening in front of me.
Wow. What did you do in therapy? Like,
One of the first really helpful things I remember is psychoeducation. Essentially, being taught what the heck was going on in my brain. Like what generalized anxiety disorder was, how common it was, that I wasn't going crazy, that this is manageable. I think, again, a lot of what my experience was like needing that sense of certainty, because I really just couldn't trust myself to cope with the uncertainty, and learning about what was going on in my body and in my mind gave me that sense of, okay, I know what's up. I'm starting to feel a bit more in control of this. That almost felt empowering. Like, can I share like a fun fact that I actually learnt? This sticks in my brain for some reason. Have you heard of the cortisol awakening effect?
no.
So neither did I, but I learnt this and I was mind blown. So essentially, it's this thing where in everyone's brains, when we're waking up in the morning, there's a natural spike in cortisol just to increase alertness. And for most people, this is felt like a gentle wake-up call. But if you're someone that struggles with anxiety, especially disordered anxiety, what's supposed to be a gentle wake-up call essentially feels like a fire alarm going off in your head.
Wow, like in the morning, so you wake up and...
Yeah. And I guess I was mind-blown learning this, but also felt so validated. I was like, that's why when I wake up and literally nothing has happened, like I've just rolled over and checked Instagram, because that's what I do in the morning. Why do I feel like the day ahead is so daunting? It's something biological happening. And learning things like that, it joins the dots and it makes you feel like, okay, it's not like I am doing anything wrong here. This is just my body doing what it needs to do because it thinks it's trying to keep me safe by doing that thing, as silly as it is.
But knowledge is power, isn't it? It's like when you know or there's language to it, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then it kind of takes a charge out of the awful experiences that you're having to deal with too.
That's right. Yeah.
Can you help me to understand that difference between generalized anxiety disorder and anxiety?
I guess the disorder part is definitely a key difference. If it's, quote, just anxiety, essentially your fight or flight response switches off once the trigger is gone.
Okay.
And I guess for me, the response in my body, how long I was spending ruminating, worrying, was clearly excessive. And it got to the point where it was impacting the things that I would be able to usually do. Whereas if I was having, quote, normal levels of stress, it would be unpleasant, but I would still be able to do what I needed to do. When it was generalized anxiety disorder, it was beyond my level of coping, really.
Yeah, well, like functioning. You can't do your studies, you can't go to work.
Yeah.
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 Did it affect your studies as well? Or did you kind of just push through?
I pushed through. I don't know how I did it, but I got through, thankfully.
Yeah. Isn't it weird how people do things like that? As in, like, we do things like that?
Yeah.
Like you're obviously struggling, but yet you're like, okay, let me get my degree done.
Yeah. There really is no choice. So I was like, this is too important. I just need to push through somehow. And thankfully I did.
Just have to get it done.
Yeah. That's right.
What would you say to people who are feeling really anxious and then they're like, I'm not sure, like, is this generalized anxiety disorder? Am I just feeling anxious? At what point should someone seek out help?
I think it doesn't hurt to go and have a chat with your GP. It doesn't hurt to go and book in for 1 or 2 therapy sessions just to get an opinion from a professional. Because I think when you're in it, it's hard to really gauge how intense it is. And I don't think a lot of people know that it's really common, to start a therapy journey with a particular therapist and then realize, you're not really clicking, and then to change. Like, that's completely fine. Like, it's normal. It's really common. I know I don't just speak for myself. When this happens, you know, like therapists, we don't take offense to it. We'd much rather you find someone that you really gel well with. And so, yeah, it doesn't hurt to have the conversation if you're feeling unsure.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like a disorder to seek support too, right?
Well,
It's
exactly.
like you could just be struggling and then maybe it helps to go to therapy
100%.
and chat it out.
100%.
Yeah.
In fact, it's probably best to come in when you're not in a crisis point. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of like you don't need to worry about, is this generalized anxiety disorder? Is this anxiety? Am I just feeling stressed? Like you don't have to worry about that too. It's like if you need help, you need help. Or if you need support, you need support. Doesn't
That's
matter
right.
the level of intensity.
Yeah, that's right. It's not like we're going to turn you away and be like, oh, sorry, you're fine. Bye. Do you know what I mean? There's no threshold for how much you're struggling in which you can ask for support.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
What about medication? Did you take medication in your recovery journey of generalized anxiety disorder?
I did actually. And I think I really wanted to talk about this with you today because I think for especially people of an Asian culture, there's this sense of almost admitting defeat in some ways by choosing to take medication for something that is psychological, emotional, mental. But let me put it this way. If my anxiety was me drowning in an ocean, the medication was this flotation device that I could hold on to whilst the therapy taught me to swim.
Ooh, I love that metaphor. Thank you. Okay, hang on. You were drowning. The medication is the float
Yeah.
that you could hold on to. The therapy was helping to teach you how to swim back to shore.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful analogy. Yeah.
I think it just created this buffer for me emotionally where the therapy could start to be effective or more effective. It just enhanced what I was gaining through my therapy.
Did it take time to find the right medication for you?
I think I got really lucky. Like I responded really well to the first one that I was put on. But again, it is quite common to take a few goes before you figure out the right perhaps brand or dosage of what you're on if you're on medication. So it's important to have a really good GP to guide you through that process.
And that's the GP, not the psychologist that helps you there?
So psychologists aren't able to prescribe medication. We know we've got knowledge of the psychotropic medication, but we're not medical professionals, so we can't prescribe them.
So would someone work in therapy and then the psychologist would say, go back, talk to your GP about medication, and then you'd be like, oh, okay. And then you go back to the GP, the same GP that referred you to the psychologist, and then talk to them about medication? Is that how it works?
Yep. So I've guided a couple of my own clients through similar conversations where, suggested that it's worth having a chat to see what their GP thinks about medication as an option, depending on what they're going through.
Were you scared about taking medication?
I wasn't scared of the medication in terms of like the side effects, but it was more in my mind. I remember thinking it was almost alarmist. It was like, oh, if someone's suggesting medication, it must mean I'm really like bad. I'm really struggling for me to have to need this prescription. There was almost like this sense of like judgment and stigma I felt on myself. But yeah, working through that even in therapy, it got to a point where I was like, well, look, why shouldn't we be able to lean on the things that help us?
Yeah. You kind of mentioned earlier about how many Asian people or some Asian people, they resist taking medication. They think it's like, an easy way out or something like that. Like, where does that come from? Where do you think that comes from?
I think it almost links to a sense of failure, doesn't it? Like this sense of like, well, if I could get through it without medication, I did that because I was strong enough to. Therefore, if I had to take medication, it means I couldn't hack it. I didn't have the strength to do it on my own, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm asking because I'm definitely like a medication resistant human. Like even Nurofen, it will take me so long until I take Nurofen, Like I will resist all medication forever, until it's like, all right, you got to take something.
Yeah, you
And then
remind me of my auntie actually.
yeah?
Yeah, she's
Really?
like that. Yeah.
And then I'll take the Nurofen and I'll be like, oh yeah, the pain's gone. I feel great.
I don't know what it is like for you with that resistance, but as I'm thinking about my auntie when you say that, and I know for her it's more like wanting to lean on natural remedies,
Yep.
natural medicines. Like she's a big fan of Chinese medicine and herbal remedies. And I guess there's almost like a mistrust of Western medicine, or I guess maybe an anxiety about becoming dependent on it. Like I've had clients say to me before, like a reason they are a bit anxious about going on medication or considering it is the worry that they could become addicted or dependent on it.
Yeah, it's weird, huh? I think I'm all of the above. But or like sometimes I fear if I take the Nurofen, this is just a stupid Nurofen example, then what happens if one day I take it too much and then the Nurofen doesn't work? And then what do I do,
Oh, you're worried
There's
about like
that
your tolerance
fear.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I generally just a bit of a resistant personality, I think. I wanted to bring your mother into this conversation too. How did that relationship play out? Like as you were, like one, in that retail job, but then two, going to therapy, three, getting medication for generalized anxiety disorder. Did you communicate all of this with your mum or your family?
Firstly, I'll say me and mum, I love her. We've got a great relationship. But it was tough having this conversation with her and trying to explain to her what I was going through. I think, and it's probably not the case for every single Asian parent or family, but at least for mine, I feel like there was quite an overly simplified understanding of what mental health is. So I think for my mum, it was you're either just a little bit stressed, just a little bit anxious, or you're full crazy. There's no grey area. So when I'm trying to explain I'm in the grey area, I don't need to be hospitalized, but I'm also not just a little bit stressed. I think there was genuine confusion with that. And because of that, there was even an even greater level of worry and concern for my mum, but not being able to really understand what that meant for me to have an anxiety disorder and have to take medication. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it just a one conversation or was it many conversations that you were trying to explain mental health challenges to her?
I was a few. I remember telling her about me going to see a psychologist and trying to explain what therapy was. And she kind of just looked at me and was like, just come talk to me. Come talk to me for free.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, firstly, we don't talk about feelings. So how do you she probably just said that out of like not really knowing what else to say, I guess. Yeah. So there was the initial one about this is what I'm going through. This is the supports that I'm leaning on, therapy and medication, and the language barrier certainly didn't help. So I speak Vietglish. So
Yeah, tell us what's that?
on a bad day, it is 80% English, 20% Viet phrases. On a good day, it's probably 60-40. So I feel like I don't have the level of Viet fluency to have a D&M with my mum. Do you know what I mean? Like we can go to Yum Cha and order food, we can count, we can swear, just the basics, but we can't have a deep and meaningful chat about our feelings.
And for context, were you born here?
I was, yes.
Okay. And your mum?
Vietnam.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So then how did you learn that 20% of Vietnamese?
Oh gosh. Just observing just listening from, mum talk to the aunties and the uncles. I was a Viet school dropout. I think I made it to like, I don't even know, grade 4, and I gave up. That's something I regret.
Yeah. Don't we all? Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more, like, you kind of insinuated it, but how do you and your mum, like, how do you then communicate, like, not just the ordering the food kind of conversations? How do you talk and connect about other stuff?
Yeah. So words are tricky. I feel like it would just be not like us to be like, oh, I love you so much. I really appreciate the things you do for me. Like, I mean, I could say it and she'd be receptive, but it just isn't the norm for us to express affection in that way. What I've really tried to do is start by leaning into her preferred love language. So, like I'll do things like when she calls me, I'll ask her if she's eaten yet. Have you had dinner? Because I know that that's a way to kind of express care. If I'm going away, if I'm traveling somewhere, I'll call or message and say, do you want me to bring you anything back? Because I know gifts can be really sentimental and show thoughtfulness.
Oh, yeah. Talk us through the love languages first. So,
Gifts, acts of service, quality time, physical touch.
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should be like the Asian one.
I know,
like
right?
giving food.
Yeah, giving food, doing favours and chores.
Doing chores. Okay.
Maybe not chores. I'll get in trouble if I say that.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of like giving you like a lift somewhere or pet sitting for you if you're going away. That's what I mean.
So you really work to try and understand your mum's love languages.
Yeah.
And then try to communicate using that.
Yeah, so I'll start there and I'll try and model to her words of affirmation slowly. So, when we're hanging out, I'll ask her to tell me about her childhood. Like the other day, I asked her to tell me about like her first love, like what she was like as a teenager. And I felt like we really connected through that storytelling as well. Yeah.
Was that in English or your
It was in
Vietglish?
Viet. I'm quite proud of myself.
Yeah.
Yes, that was in Viet. Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
What happens though, like with the mental health challenges? How do you communicate with your mum, especially when there are some words that just don't even translate into other languages?
That's a tricky question, and I wish I had like a fairy tale answer to that. But, being fluent in Vietglish right now, I don't think I have the fairy tale answer to that, which is, why it's even more important to find a culturally informed therapist. I worked with a Vietnamese psychologist when I was diagnosed with generalised anxiety disorder. She didn't kind of download Duolingo into my head or anything like that, but she gets it. It's just the nuances of an Asian family. I mean, for example, not that this happened, but say there was tension, I was having beef with like my auntie or something like that. I know that this Vietnamese therapist wouldn't be going through assertive communication skills and telling me how to confront an elder in the family. Like, you just don't do that. Like, no. There's certain things that she just got. Yeah.
What is assertive communication?
Assertive communication is this middle ground between standing your ground in something, backing yourself, but not being disrespectful.
Okay. Can you give me a sentence? Like just say this wasn't like a Vietnamese family, but your auntie was doing something annoying and you needed to assertively communicate something in like this Western framework. What would that example sentence be?
I know that you mean well when you mention how full my plate is, but if you're going to continue making those comments, I'm going to leave the table.
Okay. Yep, I hear you. And then let's put that culturally informed lens over it. Well, how then would you adapt that sentence? Because it's like that's your intention. I get it. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm a big fan of using humour and playfulness. I feel like it's a good way to still be, respectful, but get your message across. So with that the example I just gave about the, commenting on weight or how much I'm eating, say if it was my aunt, I would probably say to her something like, oh, auntie, you don't need to worry. Like, I'm going to grow big and strong. It's fine. You don't need to worry about how I'm eating. Something like that.
Yeah, nice. And it's like you're still using respect, but yet you are taking the tension out of the situation and you're still kind of taking care of yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
And how does that feel for you when you kind of, I don't know, work in this sort of nuanced way that really honors your culture?
It feels empowering because I know that it works because I've had to do it before. But then it also feels empowering when I hear my clients report back with, the use of humor being quite effective with trying to redirect an unwanted behavior, but still maintain that respect and harmony within their family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then do you mix that with like Vietnamese words and like put that into the Vietglish as you shared?
It's probably going to be still a Vietglish thing, but my aunties and my family are very fluent in Vietglish, so they get it.
Okay. Yeah. It has to be like that too. For me, I speak similar. Japlish is what I would call it. So it's like, for me, it's like sometimes the grammar is Japanese, but the words are English. So I'm like technically speaking Japanese, but using English words.
Yeah.
Because it's like I don't know what those actual words are in Japanese.
But with the context of it all together, does your family understand what you're trying to say for the most part?
So both my parents are bilingual, so I just speak English to them and, sometimes they speak Japanese to me. But extended family, I don't think they understand.
Okay.
I think
that's tricky.
I have cousins that speak English, so then that's very, very easy to communicate. And sometimes there's people like in the room that might kind of translate things over as well. But just say my auntie, she would speak zero English. So then it's like the conversations feel really simple, like me and her have a lot in common, but there's a lot that I can't get to, I can't access. And we're still having conversations as if I'm a child because I don't have the language to have deep conversations with her.
It's a really common experience, yeah, and I can relate to this as well. It feels like you can only go so far with how much you can strengthen that connection with that language barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they remember you as a kid too, right? So it's kind of like you just are a kid, but this adult body.
It doesn't help because if they're remembering you as a kid and they're treating you like a kid, you kind of accidentally revert back to your kid version as well. I've noticed that happen with
probably
me at least.
Like the words that we're using are very kiddish as well, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you think you'll ever learn Vietnamese?
I really want to. I feel like my brain, it's kind of like my brain and music are just like, fun fact, I played 4 instruments and quit them all. I'm just not musically wired.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know. I really do want to learn more Vietnamese phrases. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you work with Vietnamese clients or more like Vietnamese Australian clients?
Vietnamese Australian clients.
Yeah. I'm sure so many are second generation as well. It's like you want someone that understands, but it's not necessarily like you want to go to a therapist to speak Vietnamese.
No.
It's not like that, right?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
On the topic of family, I saw on your Instagram some really awesome content. So everyone go and check it out. But you said something about, and I've probably misquoted you, but my parents didn't birth their retirement plan. What does that mean? Tell me.
I think with that post, I was speaking to this sense of obligation that I know a lot of Asian Australians feel about their aging parents and this sense of responsibility that the time will come when I need to step up and it doesn't really matter what I've got going on in my personal life. I need to really show respect and honor to my family and give back the sacrifices they've given to me by sacrificing everything that I have. Like it feels like now we return the favor and it's just very black and white. expectation, essentially. And I think it's not a realistic expectation to put on to ourselves, because it kind of just leads to this sense of resentment and anxiety. We're in a different time now where, people who are choosing to have children are choosing for perhaps different reasons than our parents chose to have children. And so, at least for me, there's not this expectation where if I choose to have kids, I would expect them to drop everything. And I think this is a point of contention for a lot of my clients when this topic comes up, is they feel like, how do I still be a good daughter or son, but look after my needs so that the relationship I have with my parents feels authentic? It doesn't feel like it's driven by guilt or obligation, and it doesn't lead to resentment. It's a fine balance to strike with that.
How have you navigated that question?
I don't have an answer to that, really. I have a sibling. I'm really thankful to have a sibling, and I feel like, when the time does come where family needs a bit of support, I know that I have a sibling to kind of share the load with. But I really do feel this in my bones when my clients bring it up.
That's so tricky, hey? And it reminds me of this thing, like you've done so much self-work and work on yourself to be able to connect with your family and your mum, and like you're offering these little snippets of how people could relate to you and all of that kind of stuff. And I've heard within our community too that, it's like the kids are saying, it feels like I'm doing all the work and like it doesn't feel fair for me. Like I feel like I want something back from the parents too. And it's like, why do I have to go to therapy and learn all of this self-development stuff to be able to kind of relate well to my parents when really like they're 50% of the relationship too? What would you say to someone like that, thinking like that?
That is a perfectly valid thing to be thinking and feeling. Because it's like, well, now that it feels more okay for us younger folks to go to therapy, we should. Whereas it's like, what's stopping parents from stepping up and taking a bit more accountability, even just being open-minded to a different perspective? It's hard. It's hard. And I think it's one of those things where there is no fairy tale answer. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's what you say, isn't it? It's a privilege as well. Like, how privileged are we that we can go to therapy, that it's not this incredible, like stigmatized thing. It's like we can go, we can learn about things, we can try things out in our relationships too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it is a privilege to have that option and to have it feel safer and more acceptable now.
So tell me about your practice. It's called True You Psychology. Do you feel like you're the true you now? I have to ask.
I love a cheesy question. Got to have a bit of cheese in our lives, don't we? I do feel like I'm the truest version of myself that I have ever been. I think age has certainly helped. Like, I am 32 this year, and it has become easier just to care a little bit less about what people think and laugh at myself, and also hold myself with a bit of grace when things don't go well. And it's something that I really want for my clients as well. And I know that finding authenticity, finding your true self is a lot more complicated for Asian Australians.
In what way?
I think most of us have grown up with almost very rigid molds of what is expected of us. And, I think it really does take some active reflection and personal growth to really question. So this is where I've been brought up, and these are the values my family has, but what actually feels like it fits for me. So That's something I'm really passionate about facilitating with my clients in my therapy work, is to try and recognize their more authentic parts from the molds of a rigid Asian upbringing that they may not really feel is them. Mm.
Is it therapy that helped you to find that authentic Helen?
Yes and no. Therapy has enhanced the things that I was sort of already reflecting on. I love journaling. I'm always writing, and I'm always, as an introvert in my own head, spending a lot of time with myself. But therapy certainly helped, just to have a space to process that, to feel seen and validated in that way. Yeah.
So the no is like there's all this other stuff that you're doing outside of that therapy space.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
journaling.
The journaling, the having conversations with like-minded friends. I found it really helpful to connect with my Asian Australian friends, having that shared experience with them. Yeah.
Are these friends that you've grown up with?
I've got this one friend that I've been friends with since grade 4.
Yeah.
Like, she's a unicorn. So we've been friends for ages, and she has shared a lot of the experiences that I have with, like, we're both Vietnamese Australians. She kind of can definitely relate to the things I've been through.
It's always important to have people that have kind of seen your growth as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's lucky to have. Yeah. Well, thank you, Helen. Thank you for joining us and for sharing all of these experiences. They're like really powerful, especially you talking about medication and also how people can communicate with family members that might not share the same language as you. I think you've shared some really beautiful tips as well. So just so people can find you, there is obviously your website, True You Psychology.
Yep, trueyouPsychology.com.
And then you can find Helen on Instagram at helentang.psychologist.
Yes, that's right.
And you're also on LinkedIn, so look up Helen Tang as well. And everyone, you can find Shapes and Sounds on Instagram and LinkedIn as well at Just Shapes and Sounds. Please make sure you subscribe and leave us a review on your favourite podcast app because it really helps other people to find us. Please download this episode for offline listening. It has some really important tips and strategies that you can implement, so come back to this later as well. And most importantly, please share this episode with your friends because word of mouth really helps us to destigmatize mental health within Asian communities. Thank you so much, Helen. It was a lovely chat.
Thank you, Asami.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
The Asian Mental Health Podcast is a production from Shapes and Sounds, and it's made on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. This show is hosted by Asami Koike, Marcus Lai, and Oscar Abe, and produced by Yo Chung. We're proudly supported by the Victorian Department of Health's Diverse Communities program. All thoughts and ideas you hear are independently ours and our guests.